a massive sphere of deceptive fire erupted. In the freezing 10 degrees Fahrenheit cold and the blinding snowstorm of Aomori Prefecture, Misawa Air Base, the smallest and sharpest blade of the United States, thrust deep into Northeast Asia, was burning fiercely. This place houses F-16 Wild Weasel fighters and P-8 Poseidon reconnaissance aircraft worth billions of dollars. It has been the pride of the U.S. Air Force for more than 70 years. Misawa is the eyes, the iron fist, the only forward outpost in the Western Pacific, compressing the full strength of the U.S. Air Force, asserting itself as one of America's home fields on the military map of Northeast Asia. Yet that supposedly impenetrable fortress was collapsing before their eyes. Offshore, 200 drones launched from a mothership skimmed just above the waves, slipping past the entire expensive Patriot radar network to execute a devastating surprise strike. They dove straight into aircraft engine intakes and slammed into the control tower like venomous guided arrows. Tonight, at the most important outpost in Asia, the Pentagon's worst nightmare had officially begun. Why were the multi-million-dollar Patriot Pack-3 batteries, steel shields designed to shoot down hypersonic ballistic missiles, standing still like stone statues? This was a gap in tactical thinking. Their radars were scanning the skies for high-flying, fast-moving monsters, while the real threat came from cheap robotic insects flying inches above the grass and hiding behind tree lines. Thousands of American and Japanese troops were trapped inside their own base, without the weapons needed to fight back. Infantry rifles were useless against tiny, erratic airborne targets, and surface-to-air missiles were far too expensive to fire at a $2,000 drone. They were sitting on a massive powder keg, JP, 8 fuel depots, and ammunition warehouses. But the bigger question looming over the flaming Pacific sky was, who dared do this? This was a slap straight to the face of the world's #1 superpower, on the soil of its closest ally. Was this the act of a deranged terrorist organization, or the opening shot of a full-scale war humanity has always feared? Before we dive into this story, hit subscribe and turn on notifications immediately. You won't want to miss the moment the U.S. military turns the tables in the next part. At the northern runway area, Technical Sergeant Mike Walski froze in shock. Before his eyes, an F-16 Fighting Falcon worth $60 million USD, freshly refueled, was being destroyed in a way no one could have imagined. A small black drone, about the size of a trash can lid, shot straight into the engine intake, beneath the aircraft's belly, 100 miles per hour. The explosion wasn't loud, but the sound that followed was truly haunting. It was the piercing screech of titanium compressor blades being shredded. The drone had turned into a bullet, destroying the engine from within. In seconds, the F-16 became a living torch, spewing flaming fuel and devouring everything around it. Chaos spread. Loudspeakers screamed evacuation orders but were quickly drowned out by explosions. On the ground, Private Jackson and the Air Force security team were experiencing utter helplessness. They gripped their M4 rifles tightly, hiding behind blast-resistant concrete blocks. Above them, dozens of black dots drifted like hungry vultures. Jackson kept pulling the trigger, tracer rounds slicing through the blizzard, but trying to shoot tiny, erratic targets in the night with infantry rifles was impossible. The drones retaliated immediately. One broke formation and dove straight into the Humvee next to Jackson. A block of C4 detonated, the shockwave flinging Jackson violently onto the snowy ground. His ears rang. All he could hear was his heartbeat pounding. In the command center, officers realized the enemy was targeting the antenna zone, the eyes of the base. On the radar screen, red dots simultaneously changed course and surrounded the antenna array. The drones carrying thermal cutting tools attacked satellite dishes and phased array radars. They melted sensitive circuit boards with extreme heat. Within minutes, every screen in the command bunker went dark. Misawa was officially blind and deaf. No satellite communication, no radar data. The most advanced base in the Pacific was now isolated like a lone island in the night sea. The entire base was engulfed in black smoke and the stench of burning fuel. More than 30 pilots and mechanics were crammed inside a reinforced concrete bunker at the end of the runway. They could clearly hear the screeching sound outside the thick steel door. The drones were hovering, guarding right at the bunker entrance. Anyone who stuck their head out now would meet an instant death. 1:45 p.m. Washington, D.C. time, which is 3:45 a.m. in Japan. 10,000 miles away from the disaster site, the atmosphere inside the White House Situation Room was extremely tense. Real-time satellite images showed Misawa Air Base looking like the mouth of an erupting volcano. Defense Secretary Pete Hex had slammed the folder onto the mahogany table. His growling voice shattered the deadly silence. "We've completely lost communication with the Command Unit 0, Regiment 35. The Patriot radar has been blinded. No national flag, no declaration of war. Just one civilian ship and 200 suicide drones. National Security Advisor Marco Rubio pushed up his glasses, pointing at the blinking red dot on the digital map off the coast of Japan. Mr. President, this is a trap. If we launch Tomahawk cruise missiles to sink that ship, they'll accuse the U.S. of massacring a civilian crew. But if we do nothing, Misawa Air Base will be wiped out in the next 30 minutes when the main fuel depot explodes. Generals, I don't care what their rules are. Jam every communication frequency in that area immediately. I want that ship completely isolated. No radar, no internet, no call for reinforcements. After that, drop in a special operations team to deal with them. With the order given, the United States' colossal war machine began to move. 3:55 a.m. Japan time. In the pitch-black sky south of Misawa, the first wave of American reinforcements appeared. Two EA-18G Growler, electronic warfare aircraft launched urgently from the USS Ronald Reagan operating nearby. They shot forward at near supersonic speed, tearing through the snowy darkness. Under each aircraft were 3 AN tactical jamming pods. ANALQ-99, Growler 1, in position. Initiate suppression protocol. The pilot's cold voice echoed through the encrypted channel. The pilot flipped the activation lever. Instantly, an invisible electromagnetic tsunami was unleashed, flooding a 31-mile radius around Misawa Air Base and the surrounding sea. The Growler's maximum power emitters crushed every radio band from GPS, satellite, radio waves, all the way to drone control frequencies. The entire nearby city of Misawa fell into absolute radio silence. Phones lost signal, TVs went dark. At Misawa Base, soldiers hiding in bunkers heard a strange noise. The buzzing, frantic hum of the drones suddenly shifted. They no longer flew in smooth formations. Cut off from their central command, the mechanical swarm went berserk. Dozens of drones crashed into each other mid-air. Others lost orientation, dropping wildly onto the runway like frozen dead birds. America's electronic firewall had raised an invisible barrier, temporarily halting the second attack, but that was only the beginning. The mothership offshore was still there, and as long as the command core on that vessel remained intact, they could reboot the system at any moment. 4:10 a.m. In the violently churning sea, the suspicious container ship rocked hard. On the deck, the terrorists were frantically trying to restore the data link. At an altitude of 9,843 feet, not far away, the rear hatch of the Special Operations Aircraft CV-22 Osprey slowly opened. The 4 degrees Fahrenheit icy wind roared into the cargo bay, screaming violently. Inside, 16 powerful silhouettes were performing their final equipment checks. They were SEAL Team 6 operators, the most elite warriors of the U.S. Navy Special Operations Forces. Working together with 4 members of Japan's Special Forces team, Commander Miller signaled with his hand. The cabin lights shifted from red to green. He whispered coldly, "No captures. Eliminate the target." Thick ropes were released into the pitch-black darkness below. One by one, the silent warriors descended, heading straight toward the doomed vessel. Amid the howling snowstorm raging across the Pacific Ocean, the CV-22 Osprey thundered, hovering directly above the enemy ship's stern. The violent waves made the deck rise and fall like a raging beast. The motion reached an amplitude of 9.8 feet. "Go, go, go," Captain Miller shouted through the internal comm system. He was the first to leap out of the hatch, sliding straight down the rope. Miller's combat boots slammed onto the freezing steel deck. He immediately went down on one knee, sweeping his suppressed MP-7A2 submachine gun toward the command tower. Through his panoramic night vision goggles, the pitch-black night turned into a sharp green world. The remaining 15 operators touched down one after another. SEAL Team 6 and the Japanese Special Operations Unit moved with incredible speed and precision. On the upper deck, 2 guards in raincoats were patrolling. They held AK-103 rifles lazily, completely unaware of the danger standing right behind them. The roar of the ocean wind and the crashing waves had masked the sound of the Osprey's rotors long ago. Commander Miller whispered, "Targets at 12 o'clock. Take them both out." 2 4.6mm rounds pierced both targets at the exact same moment. The bodies collapsed onto the wet deck without uttering a single sound. The assault team split into 2 groups. The first group, led by the SEALs, advanced straight toward the bridge to take control of the crew. The second group, led by the Japanese operators, moved down into the cargo hold, where the suspected drone control center was located. Inside the narrow corridor leading to the lower decks, The space was cramped and filled with the stench of engine oil. At a hallway junction, a steel door suddenly burst open. A mercenary lunged out, holding a machine gun. His burst of gunfire shredded the steel wall, sparks flying everywhere. But the special forces' reflexes were faster. 3 bullets slammed into the terrorist's chest, punching through his thin Kevlar vest. He collapsed backward. But the gunfire had alerted the entire ship. 4:20 a.m. They know we're here. Move faster. Miller ordered. Bravo team kicked open the door to cargo bay number 4. Before them was an overwhelming sight. 3 modified 40-foot containers. The container roofs were wide open, revealing multi-tiered drone launch racks. Inside a reinforced glass container, dozens of computer screens glowed, displaying maps of Misawa Air Base. 5 technicians were frantically hammering on keyboards, trying desperately to restore the signal through U.S. electronic jamming. Meanwhile, 4 armed guards hid behind fuel drums, firing non-stop. A flashbang grenade was thrown into the center of the room. Boom, terrorists clutched their heads, screaming, completely disoriented. The special forces stormed in like a raging flood. Take down each target. Don't shoot the servers. We need the data. A technician tried to pull the grenade pin to die along with the computer system, but he was too slow. A bullet pierced his shoulder, pinning him to the wall. The Japanese special forces rushed in, kicked the grenade into a corner, and slammed him to the floor, securing his hands with plastic zip ties. The room grew quiet again, save for the groans of the wounded and the acrid smell of gunpowder. Captain Miller stepped up to the central control panel. On the screen, reconnect failed, kept flashing. He signaled the communications officer to hook up the data extraction device. He pressed his radio button. Command, this is Alpha. The base is secure. I repeat, the threat has been neutralized. With no engine noise left, he signaled to undo the lock. The heavy door groaned open. They breathed in fresh air for the first time in hours of tension they had survived. 12.4 miles away, a miracle was unfolding. Outside the concrete bunker where the pilots were hiding, the killer drones hovering above suddenly froze midair. Losing their control signal from the mothership, their brains shut down. Hundreds of mechanical insects dropped to the ground like lifeless stones. Others slammed into the walls and lay motionless, their deadly buzzing extinguished. At 6:30 a.m., the sun began to rise, tinting the layers of white snow with a soft pink glow. Misawa Air Base now looked like a massive metal graveyard. Thanks to the timely breaker shutdown by the maintenance team, the main fuel depot and the soldiers' living quarters remained intact. But the runway damage was beyond repair. 12 F-16 Fighting Falcons lay scattered, charred, twisted beyond recognition. Those $60 million kings of the sky were now nothing more than piles of scrap metal. When U.S. Navy intelligence experts decrypted the hard drive Captain Miller recovered from the ship, a chilling truth emerged. The enemy was the Pacific Freedom Front, a high-tech mercenary group operating under covert backing from a terrorist organization, and their attack plan on Misawa had been meticulously crafted over 18 months. The 200 drones used to strike Misawa were assembled from civilian components bought on the global commercial market. High-speed electric motors were ordered from ERC websites in Germany. AI image processing chips were salvaged from old gaming consoles purchased across Southeast Asia. The drone casings were 3D printed right inside the ship's cargo bay while it drifted at sea. No navy could intercept shipments containing cooling fans or camera batteries. The enemy had turned the global supply chain into their personal weapons factory. That old cargo ship was, in truth, a mobile assembly plant, a drifting Trojan horse right under the nose of the U.S. 7th Fleet. Their ambition went far beyond destroying a few American jets at the largest air base in Asia. If their goal had only been damage, they would have used cruise missiles. Their true objective was strategic psychological warfare. First, they wanted to show the world that if Misawa, America's most heavily protected fortress in Northeast Asia, could be burned down by cheap toy-grade weapons, then how safe were Guam, Hawaii, or even San Diego? Global trust in America's security umbrella was shaken violently. Second, this was a tactical provocation. By using proxy forces with no national flag, the mastermind forced Washington into an impossible dilemma. If the U.S. retaliated too strongly, say with nuclear strikes, it would be branded the aggressor. But if the U.S. responded too weakly, its superpower credibility would collapse. They had calculated every step. The Misawa attack wasn't meant to start World War III. It was meant to rewrite the rules of the 21st century, where victory belongs not to the one with bigger guns, but to the one with smarter algorithms willing to break every convention. Total material damage is estimated at 120 million USD. Meanwhile, the enemy's total attack cost was under 2 million USD for 200 drones, and an old cargo ship, a staggering disparity. The Misawa incident marked the death of half a century of outdated military thinking centered on super bases. The United States believed that concentrating power into massive fortresses would create deterrence. 24 hours after the attack, When the last flames at Misawa were finally extinguished, another fire far more dangerous began to erupt across global news networks. For the first time in history, the balance of military power had been completely overturned. A nuclear superpower with a defense budget of **800 billion USD** had been pierced by cheap drones assembled from gaming console parts and cooling fans. The moment the New York Stock Exchange, the NYSE, opened, the Dow Jones plummeted uncontrollably. When the Pentagon released the forensic report on the drones, the world realized a shocking truth. These killers did not use military-grade chips. They used civilian chips, the kind found in washing machines, smart refrigerators, and electric cars. The consequences were immediate. Under the direction of President Donald Trump, the US Congress issued a devastating ruling. An unprecedented large-scale embargo was enacted. All shipments of electronic components bound for high-risk nations were halted at ports. Supply chains froze. Automobile factories in South Korea, Germany, and Japan shut down due to chip shortages. Electronics and consumer goods prices surged by 40% overnight. A maritime crisis erupted. The Lloyd's of London Insurance Association declared the waters around Japan a red war zone. Insurance premiums for oil tankers and container ships crossing the region soared by 400%, pushing global oil prices to new record highs, further straining an already fragile world economy. The global economy now stood on the brink of severe recession due to the US embargo and skyrocketing oil prices. But the greatest legacy of the Misawa attack was not material damage, it was psychological. Now, a rebel group in the Middle East, a drug cartel in South America, or a private mercenary organization could possess high-precision air power without runways, without trained pilots. The absolute dominance of major nations had been challenged. On a TV screen in Times Square, the scrolling headline displayed a haunting question. If the strongest military in the world cannot even protect itself from drones, then who will protect us? The Misawa assault had ended, but the era of asymmetric warfare had only just begun, and in this new war, the boundary between civilian and military had been permanently erased. What do you think about this tactic? Have tanks and manned aircraft truly become obsolete in the age of drones? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so we can decode the next top secret military dossier together.